All right, guys. So Jason Geiman here with PressureWashHelp.com, and I am here with a legend, literally a legend. This guy has been around longer than some of you are older. And so I know I'm on a different channel. Hopefully we get some
I
people
think
come.
your exact words was I was older than dirt.
So, but I realized he's not much older than me. So that just, was one of those things. But I was looking at his website. And he's been around since started soft washing. You're probably the oldest person that I know in the soft washing world that's still in business and still has business that started way back when. So tell me a little bit about you and why did you start a cleaning business, that kind of thing?
Well, I met a girl. I wanted to get married. You know how the story goes. And I needed to support her. I got kicked out of college. I was actually in ministry school in Abilene, Texas, at Abilene Christian. And it's not just a ministry school. You have to get a real degree. And so I was never really good at math. And after failing fundamentals for algebra 3 times, they finally said, hey, son, you probably just need to stop spending your daddy's money and, just kind of move on. And I had proposed to my now wife Karen and needed to start a business. My dad was an entrepreneur and his dad was an entrepreneur. And in the service businesses, we're a service business family. And so, I wanted to be a long-haired lead singer in a heavy metal rock and roll band, but that didn't work out. So I moved back to Orlando, Florida. And my dad had the family painter, the guy that would come out and paint the houses and the rental properties and all, was painting our family house. And he had to pressure wash it first before he could paint it. And he jumped up on the roof and he pressure washed off the roof. And my dad said, man, it made it look like brand new. And so I was looking for a little business to start. He said, it seems like this roof cleaning thing would be really good. So my seed money I got from my daddy, because like a lot of people, my daddy helped me out. And we bought a $1,500 Mitsubishi, or it was a Dodge D50 made by Mitsubishi pickup truck, and a $450 pressure washer from Sam's. And I was off to the races.
You started pressure washing like with a pressure washer?
Yeah, back in, it was September of 1992, started pressure washing. Oh, I'm sorry. My wife just corrected me from your side of the house, 91.
So in 91, you started pressure washing, and this was to help support your family because as somebody put, the minister rock star didn't make it out very well. So
No. Yeah. Striper already had a lead singer, and so I just wasn't going to hack it.
Now, did you have the big long hair back in the 90s?
Back in the 80s, yes.
Or the 80s, yeah, that's true. The 80s. So when did you realize that, hey, I can use pressure, or hey, there's these chemicals out here that do a way better job than what I could ever do?
Yeah, so I remember cleaning my first roof and pressure washing it, and aggregate flying off the shingles, sandblasting my shins. I realized nothing good was going on here. So every kid in Florida kind of grows up, at least back in the old days. We had chores. We had to do things to get our allowance. So we knew that you could take Clorox bleach and put it in the pump up sprayer and put 1 part Clorox bleach, 2 parts water, put a squirt of dishwashing detergent in there, pump up that pump up sprayer, and you could clean the patio furniture on the back porch. You could clean the indoor outdoor carpet. You could, clean the pool deck with that. And so I decided, hey, this pressure washing isn't really working out. Maybe I could just get up on the roof and spray bleach on it. And so that's what I did. I remember my first roof that I cleaned with my bleach and water solution was my grandma's roof, like a lot of you guys out there, the family members or the guinea pigs. And jumped up there. I was afraid of heights. I used to tell people I was in the roof cleaning business for therapy reasons, and scooted around that roof on my butt all over the place, cleaning it with a pump up sprayer. And I was like, okay, this is working, but it's going to take me all day long to clean a little 2,000 square foot house with a pump up sprayer. So I knew I had to automate it. I had to come up with something that would be better than just that.
So back in the day, because everybody says you can't make no money in Florida because, you know, everybody's a $99 guy, but that's only because that's what you want to believe. What did you know, what was the pricing like way back then?
Well, I was worse. I was the $49 guy.
Yeah, but $49 back then in the 90s was probably not too bad at the time.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. I'm sitting there going, when it took all day to clean a roof at $49, it was a pretty depressing situation. But when I finally got my first soft washing system together and I kind of perfected the technology, I could knock out a $49 roof in an hour.
Right.
So if I went out and did 4 or 5 of those in the neighborhood, kind of lined them up, I was, doing $250 to $300 a day. I thought I was in the big time. And, after a while, you start to realize as a owner operator with no insurance, no overhead, no nothing, that's pretty good money. But as your demand starts to grow and you have to market, you have to advertise, you have to buy liability insurance, you have to get workers' comp, $49 didn't hack it. So I moved up and I became the $99 guy. And then I became the $199 guy. And then I became the $499 guy until I finally worked it up to where our average job was $980 back in the 90s.
And so that's good money even back then. And the thing of it is, I guarantee you had competitors that was a lot cheaper than that, did you not?
Yeah, in Florida, every landscaper, every pool guy, every pressure washer, every handyman has a power washer or a bleach tank on their trailer with a 12-volt pump, and they'll soft wash. And back then, soft washing wasn't popular. I was virtually the only guy doing what I was doing because I had a background in horticulture. I did have a horticulture degree, a vocational degree that I got while I was dual enrolled in high school with some vocational programs, and worked in the nursery industry for 7 years. So I knew that you could spray stuff on algae, mold, mildew, fungus, bacteria to kill it on a plant. So I knew I could apply that science to a roof. It just took a while to find stuff that you could mix with bleach, because what a lot of people don't realize is when you would clean your tanks at the nursery, you use bleach to neutralize all your chemicals. Even the Army uses sodium hypochlorite bleach as a chemical warfare neutralizer. So, they teach them to put bleach on everything. And so bleach neutralizes most antimicrobials and fungicides and things like that. So I had to go into a little bit of an R&D period and figure out what I could mix with the bleach, which gave you that awesome instant clean, but also get some longevity out of it and differentiate myself from all the other Tom, Dick, and Harry competitors in Central Florida.
So now do you still have, I know you have SoftWash Systems, obviously, but now do you still have a business that actually still cleans in the Orlando area, or do you just mainly build systems now?
Hell no.
So did you sell that business to, or do you have somebody that takes care of that location and now you just do that? Was that in the let's see, I look like the 2000-ish areas when you started building?
Yeah, it was about 2003. I pulled my dad into the business. I started the business and got very, very busy. I was wearing all the hats. I was doing the dispatch and doing the sales and doing the work and working on the equipment at night and getting the system ready for the next day and doing 15-hour days. And it was dumb. So my dad had sold one of his businesses, and I said, "Hey, Dad, why don't you come help me run this thing? I'm 23, 24 years old. I got a baby on the way, or I was actually having a baby at 23. Got a family happening. I'm running myself ragged. I can't walk into a bank and say, hey, I'm 24 years old and I want to buy 5 trucks,
Right.
And so my dad came in. He was the gray hair. He was the seasoned business person, and we ran the company together. We started. I started Mallard Systems, but he came in, and we built that up to 3 branches around the state of Florida, and we did $4.8 million a year in roof and exterior soft washing. In 2003, we got to the point where 2 bulls could no longer occupy the same hill, and he took the residential side and kept it Mallard Systems. I took all the commercial customers like Disney and Universal Studios and all the apartments and condos and government work and all that kind of stuff that we did. And I renamed it TerraClean. And we operated separately from that. And then I got out of the actual contractor side of it back around 2010. My dad actually came back in and bought me back out and brought that whole company together and sold Mallard as one piece at that point. And then I moved over and started SoftWash Systems.
So talking that, you put a good point on there, because a lot of people that are watching are that new guy, and they are wearing the 10 hats, and a lot of times a lot of the hats that they want to wear is that big hat of I gotta have the big equipment, because equipment is what makes me money, and at the end, yes, equipment makes us money, but that's not what brings the customers in. And so when you're wearing all those hats, what was the stress like before you hired your dad? Even if you're young, 23, you're young and you don't always know everything, because we usually think we do, but obviously we don't. And what was that feeling that you had, and how did you overcome to be able to get to that next level, to get to $4.3 million a year?
Well, I was just like a lot of you guys out there. I was a numbnut. I thought nobody could do it as good as me. I thought I was Superman. I was worried about turning over the reins to a lead technician. I had to do everything myself. I was obsessive compulsive, and I was my biggest stumbling block. And when my dad came into business, at this point, he's in his 40s and late 40s, and he's a seasoned businessman. He's like, dude, you got to get off the truck. You're your best salesperson. We got to get a lead tech and an assistant tech and put them out in the truck and put you out selling. And once I got off the truck, which is the hardest thing for all these guys to do, and gals, there's a lot of girls in this industry now. It's pretty cool. And getting off that truck was huge for me, because, even if you suck as a salesperson, there's this mystique that comes with you being the owner and being the horse's mouth and the last and final word, that when you look at a customer and say, hey, I'm the guy that owns the place, this is what the price is going to be, they accept it. But when a salesperson comes in, they're an employee salesperson, or was like, well, I want to talk to your manager, I want to talk to the owner. They're not, the buck doesn't stop with them. So, I went out there, and I'm a pretty good salesperson, and started selling and started landing big jobs, and really started growing the company. And we went from 80,000 a year to 250 to 500 to $1 million to 2 million. There were 5 years there that we doubled the company every year. And it was just kind of insane. And to the point where, we had a $4.8 million a year company and didn't even own a pressure washer at that point.
And the beauty of that is even if no matter how big you are, if you don't have systems into place, and if you have something that isn't perfect down here, when you just get bigger, it just makes that problem look bigger, does it not?
Oh, it's like that scene. I know some of you guys are young. You probably haven't seen this movie. It's Monty Python and the Holy Grail, And it's, but it's only a flesh wound, and you think it's this little paper cut that you got in your business because it's not gushing, but you put 3 trucks on the road, and all of a sudden you're hemorrhaging cash flow, and you're losing money. And it was only a paper cut when you were kind of part-time. You got to take care of those things when they're paper cuts, because when they're gushers, they're much harder to deal with.
Yep. It's like, because I grew my business to $1 million just, in 4 or 5 years. And it was one of those things, it's like a magnifying glass. It just, boom, It just gets worse as we go, So when you started getting to that point, what was the reasoning to start SoftWash System? Was it just something that you were like, I can do this, and to help other people? Or what was your goal of starting SoftWash System?
Well, honestly, when I got out of the contractor side of it, we had a really, really, really bad family business breakup. And because of some things that happened, I didn't talk to my dad for almost 7 years. We're good now, which is awesome. And everything's going well. But I did not want to go back into this industry at all. So I went into business consulting. Because I'm a 3rd-generation entrepreneur, really good at business systems. I'm killer at putting together sales teams and marketing. That's what I do. So I just wanted to help other businesses. Well, my first customers were a lot of people that had heard of Mallard Systems in the power washing, window cleaning, soft washing industries. And so they hired me to help them with their companies. And they kept saying, AC, I just want to build a little Mallard Systems. I just want to build another Mallard Systems. And then I had people saying, hey, see, I want to use your equipment and chemicals. I'm like, I don't sell equipment or chemicals. I really didn't want to get back into this. And I remember Robert Hinderleiter with powerwash.com approached me and said, hey, AC, a lot of people have been talking about you. And I really want to put together a class for certifying people for soft washing. Could you write that for me and come to Dallas Fort Worth every couple months and teach the class for me? And I said, sure. I don't want to get back into it, but I'll help other people get into it. And so we did that for a little while. Robert Hinderleiter and Michael Hinderleiter had some other irons in the fire. They had the deluxe lawsuit going on at the time, and we're really, really distracted. Michael called me up one day and said, man, AC, we can't handle this anymore. We're very distracted with these other things that are going on. I'm just going to give you this whole business back and you take it and run with it. I'm like, I didn't want to be back in this industry. All of a sudden I've got SoftWash Systems laid back in my lap. That was about August or September of 2011 now at this point. And I said, well, it's turning about $1,500 a month in profit. That's about enough to pay the kids' college bill. I'll run it on the side while I'm doing my business consulting, and it'll pay the kids' college bill. And so I took it over and started running it the way I had envisioned it should be run, and how we should help people and how we should be a business incubator. And it shouldn't just be about equipment and chemicals. You need equipment and chemicals to go out and do the work, but that's not the secret sauce. That's not the magic. The business systems are the magic. The marketing systems are the magic. The sales team development is the magic. The personal development, the coaching, the personal leadership skills is the secret sauce. And when we started teaching people that, we started having explosive results. I do it. The reason why I do this every day, because guys, I could make a freaking ton more money than I'm making right now in other industries. Okay. I used to be a professional fisherman. I'm a national champion professional fisherman.
Really?
I could fish every day and make as much money as I'm making right now, honestly, and have and I would say have a lot more fun, because my why for this, the reason why I do this is I really love helping people start their own business, grow their own asset. And I have a goal to create 1,000 million dollar companies by the year 2040. So we have a $1 billion network.
That's awesome, because that is why I do what I do too. Is my goal is exactly what you is to help people. My goal is to see people. I got people in the industry that I've brought in that that have lost their job and they've lost everything. And one of them is a fireman, and he was getting ready to lose his job, and he had a bunch of debt, and this year he's made $70,000 alone just this year in like 6 months, and and so that is my why also, is to help people. Yes, is it to make money, support my family? Yes, but at the end of the day, it's about helping people to be able to get to that next level, be able to do what I've done. And I'm going to go back a little bit, because I've actually heard some things of. Somebody asked me the other day, but what is your thought process? And I'm probably going to know what it already is, but I want to hear it from it. But what is your thought process of starting a business with family?
Well,
and not only what your thought process is, what are some things that you can do to make sure that you don't have issues like you had before?
Okay, so it's a two-part question. I've had great experiences with family, and I've had unpleasant experiences with family. I've hired a lot of friends, a lot of family. As a matter of fact, my director of North America, Dan Holland, that runs the business for me in North America, was my pastor for 25 years. Okay, so listen, if you're going to get screwed by somebody, it might as well be somebody you know.
Right.
Because everybody, you have a chance of getting screwed with no matter who you deal with. And it really has more to do with how you handle it than the person who acts inappropriately or possibly doesn't handle themselves well or steals from you or whatever happens. You're the leader. You set the tempo. You put all the margins in place. And if you're a good communicator and you're a good leader, I think it's great to hire friends, family, especially right now, as hard as it is to find employees. You know, listen, if you can fog a mirror and you have a pulse, welcome to SoftWash Systems. Because I've gone through a lot of leadership development training and coaching and everything else. You know, just give me some loose clay, give me somebody that's soft clay, and I'll mold them into what I need them to do.
As long as they just show up.
Yeah. It used to be if they had a clean driving record, you're like, welcome to the family.
If you have a pulse and you show up every day, that's a start. And
Yes.
that doesn't matter what business it is in. It doesn't matter how much you're paying. It's show up every day and you're hired pretty much.
Yeah. When you hire family and something happens, it's because you could be the one in the right and they could be the one in the wrong, but your butt hurt because your feelings got hurt and you got all this pride and everything else. You just need to get over it and move on and just figure it out, because it ain't nothing but a thing, really.
So my next question is going to be, I know you've seen a lot of successful people in the pressure washing world, soft washing world, and I know you've seen some failures. What sets those two apart? What is there something that you can look at somebody and be like, he's going to be successful? Or is there something that, you know, he's going to struggle? What is there something in there that you can, and I'm sure you've seen, and I know you have because you've been in the pressure washing world for a long time. I've seen a lot of people come and go, but what are some good characteristics to make sure that we can be successful at the end of the day?
Okay, so I think the number one reason why people don't succeed is because they have unrealistic and unclear expectations of what their capabilities are. Success is different for different people, okay? In the Bible, Matthew chapter 25 is the parable of the talents, where the master is going to leave for a while, and he has 3 servants, and he gives to one talent, one 5 talents, the other one 7 talents, each according to their ability, okay? They each got some talents, but the one that had 1 talent went and buried it in the ground. And the one that had 5 invested it and brought a return of 5, and one that had 7 invested it, brought a return of 7. The biggest problem that I see people do is either A, they have some talents, they bury it in the ground, they don't try hard enough, they're not disciplined, or you get some people that, God's honest truth, whether it's socioeconomic background, IQ, education, whatever it is, they've got a tough hill to climb, so they maybe set their goals a little too high, and when they don't reach them, they get discouraged and they give up, when they just needed a good coach in their life to help them make realistic, smaller goals and climb that mountain, read that whale one bite at a time, and see the victories even in the small stuff. You know, some people look at what I've accomplished and what I've done, because I went broke 1 decade ago down to my last $250 because of my bad family business breakup. Okay. Literally I had $250 in my pocket when I went to my first Power Washing Institute show that Ron Musgraves used to do. And I was a keynote speaker there with my last $250 in my pocket, trying to figure out what was next for me.
That's gotta stink.
Yeah. I had to tell him, you know, hey, if I'm going to be the keynote, it's just not right for me to have to pay for my hotel room. You should go ahead and pay for my hotel room, Ron, because I couldn't afford the hotel room.
Right.
But the bottom line is I rebuilt from that. People are like, oh man, I want to do what AC did. What AC did was a lot of hard work, and not everybody can do what I did as quickly as I did. But everybody can be successful. It's really important for you to paint your picture of what you want your life to be, and then build the appropriately sized business to support that. You don't put a 250 horsepower engine on the back of a canoe.
I agree 100%. And a lot of times, and that's why I tell people success is measured in different. What I consider success and what you can consider success can be 2 different things. You know, you may need a lot more for success. I might not need as much. Or if my guy down here don't, you know, he's got a $15 an hour job right now. His success is going to be a lot, you know, if he makes $100 or $100,000 a year, he's going to be mind blown at that point. Where if somebody's working a 9 to 5 and they're making $100,000 a year, you know, they're going to have to make $100,000 to $150,000, maybe $200,000. And
Right.
even then, they're still not going to be mind blown like the guy making $15 an hour, because that is a mindset. It is way people are, kind of like what you're saying, where people come from, you know, where you live, all that kind of stuff puts factors in of you growing a successful business. And what success is for this guy may not be success for that guy. It might be failure for this guy.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. And we got to be careful too, as mentors and coaches and peers, not to paint unrealistic pictures for the people that we're around, to meet them at their own place where they are in their own turf, and really be gracious about the way we move people through stuff. You know, I see a lot of pushing and shoving in this industry. I see a lot of criticism. You know, I
just
see
get
a
on
lot
Facebook, you'll really see a whole lot of it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I see a lot of trolls, and people get all wrapped up in what other people think about them. Don't worry about that. Worry about you, your family, the income you need to make to change your life. Put your head down, pull the plow, and don't be so prideful that you don't stop when you need to and ask for help.
I agree on that. But, you know, that's huge right there, you know, because, you know, sometimes you just need that, you need that person to say, hey, you know, I always say, try to get around like-minded people, you know, and, you know, I always also say, you know, you become the 5 people you're around, you know, so if you're around 5 duds, you're probably going to be a dud. You don't want to be the bottom of those 5. You want to be the bottom of those 5. You don't want to be the top of the 5, because if you're the top, then
You're not learning anything.
You're not going up. But if we're the bottom of those 5, guess what? We can move up and we can grow as a person, you know, and we can get ourselves to the next level at that point. So I'm probably, I think you done hit on a little bit, but tell me one failure you had in your business, and what are 2 things that you learned from that failure?
Well, I'll tell you the story of Mallard Systems. And so, you know, I already kind of hinted on the fact that I had built Mallard up, and I was busy. I was wearing all the hats. I got my dad to come into it and help me with the business. We built the first branch up to about $2 million a year, but we were doing some business in Tampa. We were doing some business in South Florida. Then we opened up the Tampa branch and started doing about $1.5 million a year. And then we opened up Delray. When we opened up Delray, we literally decided to open it, and within, I think it was 3 months, we had picked the facility, hired the people, had the desks made, put in the bleach tanks, everything else, and opened up that branch. The first month it was open, we did $170,000 its first month. Okay. So it was great. But what wasn't great is, this is one of the areas where my dad and I had a little bit of agita between each other, is I wanted each of those branches to be their own separate LLC, own separate books, autonomous, you know, not part of one big thing. He wanted to grow the one big thing because he was hoping we were going to grow it big and somebody was going to come in and buy it out from us. And we got some companies, you know, paying attention to us.
Right.
We had, you know, the Service Master that owns True Green Chemlon. They came and they wanted to buy us. The guy that owned Middleton Pest Control here in Florida wanted to come and buy us. There was another company. There was like 3 companies wanted to come and buy us, but they wanted to only give us about $1.5 million for the company. And by the time you pay taxes on it, tithe on it, split it between Dad and I, we're walking away for 3 years income. That's dumb, you know? And then the drought and September 11th happened. Business went like this in Florida because we were on water restrictions, and we started closing the businesses. And luckily we had closed Tampa and brought it all back to Orlando, closed Delray Beach, brought it all back to Orlando a month before September 11th happened, by the grace of God. But because we leveraged debt, because we had open lines of credit, because we had vehicles with a bunch of notes on them and everything else, when we closed those 2 branches, we created a debt of $750,000. Okay. Now, the good thing is we all know the soft washing industry is very profitable.
Yep.
And we paid off, believe it or not, we paid off. Now, we negotiated some of it out. So some of it was 50 cents on the dollar, some of it wasn't, but we paid that off within 2 years.
That's pretty good. That's impressive.
Just to tell you what kind of profit we were making at Mallard Systems.
Right.
But debt, man, number one, when you start doing branches, and it's what we teach at SoftWash Systems, is we come up with your holding company that's an S corporation, and then you do all of your branches as separate child LLCs, and then when they make a profit, the profit goes up to the S corp, and they're individual companies. That creates a corporate veil between the two of them. So if somebody runs a traffic light at your Tampa branch, hits a minivan and kills a kid, it doesn't affect all your other branches. Those are some mistakes that I've made in the past that I tell people all the time, I'm not the smartest guy. I'm just very experienced.
School of hard knocks goes a long way.
A long way. So yeah, number one, debt is bad. Debt is bad. You got to have a little bit of debt, because if you don't flex your credit muscle, nobody's going to loan you money to buy a facility. You're not going to be able to do that kind of stuff. But like with SoftWash Systems, we're 100% debt free with SoftWash Systems, except for our training truck. We have a small note, $25,000 note on our training truck, so that our bank feels like they're making some money off of us.
Gotcha. Right.
But other than that, we're 100% debt free. And you know something? You sleep really good at night when you owe everybody nothing.
Yeah, I just got, I don't know if you probably don't know my story much, but I just quit the firehouse in August, and I've been doing this for a while on the YouTube side of things, and now I'm a full-time YouTuber. And before I could quit the firehouse, I got debt free, and that right there is like the biggest weight off of your shoulder that you would ever believe. Becoming debt free, and that's what I want you guys that are watching this, is to get there to that point of getting debt free, getting those bills off. Like I say, the guy that was talking about the pressure washer that did it up in Illinois, Nick, he's a fireman, and about 3 or 4 weeks ago, he got in a bad motorcycle wreck. I mean, his leg is in bones in like 3-4. He broke his femur. He broke his fib. He's going to be out till next year. But he had gotten debt free from pressure washing, And so can you imagine if he wasn't debt free, and then you go have this motorcycle wreck? What would the burden and the thing on you at that point, where if you're not now, he might have to accumulate a little bit of debt now because of it, but at least he's got some breathing room to be able to go from there. And so that is the goal for, why I teach people how to do pressure washing. So what is one thing that if you was a new guy starting out, what would you tell a new guy what to do? Some experience, some knowledge of experience and stuff.
Wow. Well, there's some things I tell our new guys to do that I can't tell all of you guys to do, because there's some really great trade secrets that we have. Oh man, what I like is I like guys like Josh and Brandon Vaughn, and with the AGS Conquer group, and they've got these T-shirts that say "Do hard things." Delayed gratification. Delayed gratification. I was having a personal coaching call this morning with one of our in-network companies, and he was complaining that that his investor that helped put him into the business was only letting him take a $2,000 a month paycheck plus profit distributions, and he felt like he was worth more. And it's his third year in the business, and he did he's not doing that well. He did 100 grand the first year, and then 120 the second year, and he's got to do about 150 the third year. And I said, well, when you look at that, a lead technician should only cost 8 cents on the dollar, 8%. And then the salesperson at max, if they're doing residential sales, I pay them 15. If they're doing commercial sales, I pay them 10. If you look at the two positions you fill in the company right now, because it's still one truck company, you're wearing all the hats. You're the lead tech when you go out and clean. You're the salesperson. If you add up the 120,000 you did last year, 8% of that plus 15% of that equals $24,000, I think it was. And then y'all ended up having about $10,000 in profit at the end of the year. Now he's a 70% stockholder, so he got 7,000 of that 10. I said, dude, you know, that's what you're worth. I can't pay you anymore. Right. You know, that's what your company made. That's what the budget is. That's what you have. You know, he said, well, I need to make $75,000 a year. I said, you need to get your truck up to $300,000.
Yep. And that's, you know, and that goes back to, you know, marketing and sales and pushing that, you know, and a lot of times that's where a lot of people I see have a hard time is they don't, you know, the marketing and sales of when you're wearing all these hats, which hat do I wear? Do I wear a marketing hat? Most of the time what happens is we're slow. So we're going to wear the marketing hat and we're going to market. And then we start getting busy and we take that hat and put over here and put this hat down here. And then we start doing the work, the $10, you know, the job of the $15 an hour guy. We're going to start paying this guy here $15, right? And we're going to worry about working. We forget about our marketing hat. And then they go, well, I ain't got no more work. Well, now we got to go back over here. And so the goal is to figure out that, you know, you were doing the roller coaster and you're absolutely right. Well, we want to keep it on that roller coaster going up and never coming back.
Put your company on Ritalin.
You know, exactly. Exactly. And I know it's hard for a lot of people. And I love what you're saying about doing hard things. You know, I say the other day I did a podcast of get rid of can't, because can't will not, you can't, I can't is the worst thing you can say. This is what we tell my kids. My kids aren't allowed to say can't. You know, the wow fact. Do you write that book or?
Well, I'm a contributing author, but my word is fair. My word is fair, and I call it the F word.
And so
the word fair is the F word. People go, well, it's not fair. You know, it's not fair. I'm make it, dude, get rid of that word.
And so can't, you know, I don't even allow my kids to say can't, you know, I tell my kids, you and my wife is, you know, you can do hard things, you know, you can do hard things. Is it going to be easy? No. Are you going to know how to do everything? No, it's going to be hard. It's going to be, you're going to fail, or you're going to learn hard things. And you know what? You'll figure it out and then you get better at it. You know, when I first started pressure washing 10 years ago or 2012, I didn't know nothing about YouTube. I didn't know nothing about marketing, but you know what? I started digging in and I loved it. You know, I love doing marketing. I love doing marketing. And then I found out about YouTube and I love doing YouTube. And you know what? If you'd have told me 3 years ago, you'd be a YouTube person, I'd have said, you're crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. But I love doing it. I teach, you know, I learn it and then I do it and I keep going. Was it easy? No. Did I have to invest in myself? Yes. And that is one of the biggest things that I know that helped me grow my business is to invest in yourself. And that will help you get so much farther in life than just being like, I can't do that. That's not fair.
Yeah. I don't like that F word.
Life's not fair at the end of the day is what I always tell my kids. So tell me a little bit about SoftWash Systems. What is something, and you can sell whatever you want to sell here. I don't care. Just want to know. I want to know more, learn about more about SoftWash, and you can start, you know, how it's a full system, the whole 9 yards.
Well, you know, SoftWash Systems is an unfranchised. We're kind of like Mary Kay for men. We put people in the soft washing business. There's no upfront money. There's no franchise fee. What we do is we're a logistical support company. So if you want to go into soft washing and you want to call yourself ABC Soft Wash, it's your name on the side of the truck. It's your asset. You own it. You're building it to keep it. You're building it to sell it. You're building it for legacy. Whatever you're doing, it's your asset. We're helping you do that. Hopefully, if we do a great job certifying you, educating you, consulting you, coaching you, breathing life into you. Okay. Or like I said, we're a business incubator at SoftWash Systems. If we do a good job at that, then you're going to be loyal to us and you're going to buy our equipment, our chemicals. You know, we have our SoftWash Systems Academy online. We have our training events throughout the year. A lot of people don't realize before COVID, we had 40 live camps a year at our facility. 40. We do a sales boot camp. We do Discover SoftWash. We do a flat surface camp, a wood restoration camp. We have our Top Gun School, which is every month, that when you come and buy a piece of equipment from us, you can sign up for the Top Gun School and you go out and you run. First day, we totally equip your truck, show you how to use all your equipment and all. And then day 2 and day 3, you actually go out and run a schedule with one of our local SoftWash Systems and network companies in your truck in Central Florida, so that when you leave at the end of that 3 days, you know how to use that piece of equipment. So we've got a lot of camps and everything. Like I said, my goal is not to sell a bunch of SoftWash equipment. Listen, we've got, bar none, without exception or argument, the most expensive piece of equipment in the industry. And everybody knows it.
Wait, you mean you don't have to be the cheapest guy out there to make money?
Nope. And I've got a board. You can kind of see it over my left-hand shoulder here. I've got a board that we do every year. I've got one for Europe and I got one for the United States. We only sell 100 pieces of equipment a year.
Really?
Yep. Because it's all we can support, because we're not in this business to sell equipment. Okay. It's a soap dispenser. It's a great tool that gives you the ability to go out and do $350,000 per truck. It's very well built. It's the best system on the market. We spare no expense. We only make 35 points on that system. And that's our GP. That's not our net profit. We still got to pay all the bills and the power bill and the rent and everything else off that 35 points. If we do a good job, supporting you, teaching you about the business, teaching you about sales and marketing, and you go out there and you kill it, grill it, and put it on the table, and you get busy, guess what you're going to buy a lot of?
Chemicals.
Yep. So I have a vested interest in your success, but we've realized that we can only put 100 trucks on the road a year and really pay attention. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is, like, this year, 30 of those 100 trucks will be legacy systems. So what do I mean by a legacy system? Those are people in our network that they're buying their second, third, or fourth system. It's not the first system. So only about 2/3 of those 100 systems a year that we sell are new people coming into the network. So I'm not going after the whole market. And at SoftWash Systems, we want the best, we want the brightest, we want people to come down to Discover SoftWash here in Orlando, Florida, kick the tires, check us out, see what we have to offer, and see if it's a match. Okay? See if it's a match. See if we like each other, we can work with each other. And then if you think that being part of our business incubator, being part of our tribe, being part of our community is going to increase your chances of being successful, then we will give you a quote on a system. We'll tell you what it takes to get involved and all. We have certifications and classes you have to pass and tests and stuff like that. But it's for real. It's for real. When you sign up with us, you know, we have an obligation, or else you ain't going to buy no greenwash to make sure you're successful.
Well, and that's a good thing that you're doing that, because, you know, I know there's a lot of tire kickers out there at the end of the day, you know, and a lot of people just don't understand business at the end of the day. Like I was saying, you know, a lot of these people, you're working, you know, even the guys making $20, $25 an hour, you know, $50,000 a year, don't understand business at the end of the day. I mean, business is hard, you know, business isn't easy. There's a lot of hats just in the business side of things. AR, say, all the crap that you got to go to get out there to make sure that you get your money that you are trying to make at the end of the day. And so that's awesome that you are setting people up for success at the end of the day. So how many SoftWash systems are out in the between? So you sell in Europe and the United States. And now, do you have a special thing in Europe, or are you just shipping them over there?
Well, right now, we're just less than 40 systems a year in Europe. When we cross the 40 system mark, we'll start my manufacturing company. We'll put a branch over there, which is Disruptor Manufacturing. And so we'll start a manufacturing company over there. Right now, we're shipping containers full of systems over there about twice a year. We have a distributor in the Benelux, which is Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg, Western Europe area. And we have a distributor in the UK. And so we're growing pretty good over there. Things are going well. We've got a chemical blender over there that makes our chemicals for us. We own all of our own formulas and recipes. And so we've got them with a company there that makes the chemicals, so we don't have to ship them over. We have another toll blender here in the States that does our chemicals. So, I mean, it's good. We surpassed our 700th, I think is how you say it. I'm tired, sorry. 700th system this year.
Really?
And yeah. So we've got just a little over 700 generation 1, generation 2, or generation 3 skids out there on the road. They don't come up used for often, for sale. When they do, they go very, very fast. I think Pat Clark buys most of them.
I was going to say, is Patrick Clark your biggest person of growing a business in the United States area?
Yeah, right now he is. Brandon Vaughn was our biggest guy. And of course, he sold his company and started Conquer. But yeah, I've got Pat. I've got several guys that are doing well, have, a couple 5-star branches, because we teach them how to build the branches now and how to set them up legally and all the business systems that you put into them. But we're right now in network companies, in good favor with us, active companies, just about 220 in 9 countries.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Well, because I figured out a cool way to spray bleach on a building.
Right. No, and that's the thing about it at the end of the day of, figuring out things, and it's not rocket science now. Everybody knows what kind of it is now. I'm sure, I know back in the day it was a lot tougher because not everybody knew, and you didn't just have the science. The science wasn't really there to understand how it is. When I was in high school, the pH scale meant nothing to me. It meant 1 to 14, and it was 14 letters, or numbers. Now that I understand what it means, there's a meaning to it. I never cared about the pH scale, even when I was a fireman. Did it mean something when I was a fireman? Yeah, but I never understood it till I became a pressure washer. The bases, the acids. Hey, there's reasons why you got all the things in between, And again, I didn't care about that stuff. But when I started pressure washing, I started caring a whole lot more, because I realized that is the important side of things at the end of the day.
Oh yeah, you mix your first tank of mustard gas and you're on the ground puking your guts up and breathing baby breaths. All of a sudden that pH scale makes a lot more sense.
And and I say it all the time because I've seen it. I've never seen it personally, but I've known people that done it. 1 drop of acid in a thing of bleach that's in a pump up sprayer is not a pretty sight. It's going to blow up.
So you want to hear something really funny? So when I was building my first Mallard system, that's why we called it Mallard Systems, because a piece of the equipment in the back of the truck was called the Mallard system, because I like ducks. And so I was trying to figure out how to make my different tanks different colors so it looked like I was doing something special. So I decided, I didn't want people to know that I was using regular bleach, pool bleach. So I went, well, they have those tablets that you put in your toilet that turns the toilet water blue. Tidy bowl tablets.
Yep.
I said, I'll throw that in my bleach tank and turn my bleach tank blue. Well, let me just tell you this. If any of you guys want to have fun sometime, throw in a tidy bowl in a bleach tank is like putting a Mentos in a bottle of Coke. And it blew up and shot a foam snake 30 feet into the air. I mean, I didn't know what happened to me, but that's the kind of dumb stuff you do when there is no internet, when there is no radio shows like this, or YouTube live shows like this where you can talk about things and coach people. We didn't have that stuff starting out. So I was putting Tidy Bowl in my tank, not realizing what would happen. A lot of people right now, the 119 gallon rule with DOT, okay, where you can't carry more than 1,000 pounds or 119 gallons of any hazardous material or hazardous substance. So bleach is a hazardous substance. I had 500-gallon bleach tanks on my trucks at Mallard. I remember the day DOT walked in and said I couldn't have those trucks on the road anymore.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, well, how much bleach can I have? Oh, you can have 119 gallons or less. Right. And I'm like, I won't even make it through the day with 119 gallons, because we were mixing it 50-50. We're putting, some surfactant in there. We were using aluramine oxide or something like that. And we'd go out and spray roofs, and that's what we did. And then I had to start really looking into chemistry and how do I catalyze bleach and how do I get that 100 gallons of bleach to last a day or 2 or 3. And, we did a lot of trailblazing back in the early days. A lot of people live in the shade of the trees I planted 15, 20 years ago on the chemistry everybody's doing right now with soft washing.
Yeah, Cody is in here from Southeast SoftWash, and he put, my dad made a tank glow orange cleaning a roof in 1990. A bad day.
Yeah.
So I don't want to keep you too much longer. We're right at about 9:50. We were up to about almost 95 people, I think was the most I've seen there. But we've so tell me what if we can, like I said, I'm going to go back to that new guy. Just one little nugget that, just to help with the mindset or something that, word of encouragement that for a new guy or somebody's trying to get to that next level. So that way, like I said, I want to be respectful of your time and all that kind of stuff.
Huge tip is in any service business, because I'm a 3rd generation service business entrepreneur. I understand service business as well. I own several myself. So in any service business, the 2 biggest places you're going to bleed, if you're losing money, if you're not showing a profit, if you're struggling paying the bills, the 2 places you look for those bleeds we were talking about is the number 1 place always is payroll. It's always payroll. You're either paying yourself too much, you're paying somebody too much, or you're allowing overtime to happen. Remember, overtime is 1.5 times the regular wage. So $10 an hour becomes $15 an hour, but also too, your workers' comp then goes 1.5 times. Your liability insurance, if you're in an audit policy where they get to come up to you at the end of the year and see what your payroll was, now you're paying 1.5 times on your liability insurance. You're paying more FICA insurance. You're paying more Social Security. All of those things go up with payroll if you let overtime and payroll get out of control. And I see you let your guys milk the clock hurts you, or sometimes owners take way too much money out of their company. Right. Okay. That's the number 1 biggest bleed. The number 2 biggest bleed, the place where every service business I've ever consulted, every time I've looked at the books, number 2 biggest bleed is advertising. Y'all are lazy out there. Thing called shoe leather, knocking on doors, B&I groups, going in and teaching or doing lunch and learns for realtor associations and stuff like that. That's the stuff you need to do. Buying pay-per-click advertising, okay, and doing direct mail-in and buying vanity ads and putting an ad on TV or a bulletin board or a billboard or radio or anything else like that. Do not do it. Okay. You need to go out there and promote your company the cheapest way possible. And that way is through relationship and referral marketing, chucking rock flyers, knocking on doors, putting out yard signs, putting a wrap on your truck. That's what's going to get you business. But going out there and advertising in magazines, getting sucked into that, contracts on that. Yellow Pages isn't a big deal now, but Home Advisor,
Oh, I was back in the day of the old going into then to, and that is that is honestly, that is a really good point of, I can see marketing be the second suck of it, and sometimes, most of the time I can see that being the biggest suck for, even medium-sized companies. A lot of times people don't want to do no money in marketing. And it's like, well, if you're going to grow, you got to spend some. But so what is your happy medium if you're going to put money into marketing? How much is that percentage out of everything?
5 cents on the dollar or less, 5% or less.
So 5% or
Brandon
less.
Vaughn built his business on 2.5 cents on the dollar.
And so, and that's a good way to do it. And that is definitely a thing that, we can do. And I love that, because those, I can see, especially when we start getting into the point of employees, and, that's a hard thing. And labor is one of those things that costs, that just is a pain in the neck. Yeah. Well, AC, I appreciate you coming on here. I really do. I got some, I kind of reached out to some of the big dogs. And you're one of the big dogs. I've never met you. I don't know if I've actually met you in person. I think you were at the Huge one year, but I don't know if I actually came up and shook your hand. That was when I was a little guy and didn't know no better. And so, I really do appreciate you coming on here. And it's been an awesome time here. And again, I appreciate it. Again, these guys, if you want to check out SoftWash System, I will put the link in there. I was supposed to do it how I normally did it. We was having technical difficulty, so we came to Zoom. I will put all your information in the bottom down there, so that way, if anybody wants to check out your website, go check you out. Go subscribe to his channel. I do have one thing on him. He's only got 2,600 YouTube subscribers. I'm going to hit 20,000, hopefully the end of this month. So
yeah, I haven't done a good job pushing for subscribers, but man, oh man, when people say they've come to SoftWash Systems, how did you hear about us? Man, I found one of your YouTube videos, and 3 hours later, I popped back up out of the rabbit hole and didn't realize 3 hours of my life went by. So yeah, YouTube is a great tool. And hey, listen, if any of you guys out there are interested in SoftWash Systems, before you spend a lot of money anywhere else, just come to one of our Discover Soft Washes. It's softwashsystems.com/discover. Come down here, kick the tires, spend 3 days with us. Eat some good food. We feed you. We take care of you. We take you out to some cleaning sites. It's classes in the morning, labs in the afternoon, and we charge $5.99 for that, because you actually get a workbook. We actually have a real classroom on site. We actually feed you good food, and you will see it's money well spent. Spend $5.99 before you spend $59,000 and get into this business. We'll really be able to help you make some wise decisions and choices. And our certified applicator program is pretty cool. A lot of people are like, well, AC, I can't afford one of your pieces of equipment. That's okay. When you buy our certified applicator program, it actually has a whole class in it on how to build your own SoftWash system. So gotcha. I started literally 35-gallon garbage can, 12-volt pump, roll of hose, cleaning roofs. And I can help you do that same system. If that's all you can afford, we'll get you out there cleaning. You'll bootstrap your company, and you'll be able to look back debt-free and say, hey, I may have started small, but look at me now.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm on